You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Spirit Dimension with your host, Kerry Greenaway, right here on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Spirit Dimension. My name is Kerry Greenaway, and as always on a Sunday I like to bring you an eclectic mix of people and subjects that we discuss. It's rather snowy out there, so I hope you're all safe and in the warm. And firstly, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Mrs. Clare Hinks. Good evening, Clare. How are you?
Good evening, Kerry. I'm very well, thank you. I'm warm, and it's very cold and snowy, and I keep wishing it away, but it keeps coming back.
I know, just as we think we've got spring, it then goes back to winter. I mean, come on, what's going on with it?
I know, there's something weird going on. I don't know. Yeah.
Now, we have got a very special lady joining us in the studio tonight with us. Her name is Heather Prince, and she runs a website called the Rootmaster. Good evening, Heather. How are you?
I'm very well, Kerry, and thank you for inviting me on your show.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. I'm thoroughly interested in what you do and how you work. So I want to start right at the beginning for you. How did you start this? How did you get into this?
A very long time ago, I had a school friend whose husband got diagnosed with cancer, and I felt helpless and powerless. And I knew a lady that worked in the local chemist that was a healer. And she said to me, would you like to come to my circle? And I said, what's that? And she said, well, we can do absent healing. And I said, what's that? And I really knew very little. And I got quite spooked out, to be very honest, when I went there. And I thought, I'm not going back. But I got a really bad neck called a wry neck. I couldn't move it. And I went back to that lady who gave me healing. And she said to me, you can do this. And I went, no, I can't. And she said, oh, yes, you can. And I trained with her for years. And at that point, I had 3 very, very young children. And the youngest child was different from the other 2. And I did some research on the brand new internet at the time and found out that he seemed to tick all the boxes for what was called an indigo child. And that compelled me to take him to an assessment centre, an educational assessment centre. And she told me he was hands-on kinesthetic learning and said, would I like him to be cleared? And I went, cleared of what? And she said, well, things from his past lives. And she started to do the therapy that I then learnt for the next 2 years, and it took off from there.
Wow. He's still indigo, though, yes?
Yeah, quite.
He's still indigo. He is amazing. He's going to be 29 this year. He has a lovely partner. He has 2 children and another one due in July. And he's a typical indigo. He has no fear of authority. In the educational system, he was a round peg pushed in, or a square peg, I would say, pushed into a round hole, which didn't work for him. And to be academic didn't work for him because he had his own attributes, and he's done very well for himself in work, and lives in a nice home. So, yeah, very proud of him.
So what was needing to be cleared? When we talk about clearing, what needed to be cleared from that?
It turned out in that particular case that he had a thread running through him of being a healer, and each lifetime that he had experienced, he was a natural healer. We're all natural healers, but some have it to the fore in their life, and some don't. And in one life, he'd had a religious life. Many of us have religious lives from past lives, and he had been misunderstood. And that misunderstanding was occurring in his current life, where he was being misunderstood for being rather cheeky and rather, disruptive in the school. And at one point was nearly going to be expelled, excluded. Anyway, this lady that I met and who trained me cleared his past lives, shed some light on it, and as she was doing that, I intuitively connected and could see it all very clearly. And it followed on that his school allowed him to move class, which was never been known before. He continued with his GCSEs, which he passed with flying colours, and everything shifted, and I thought, my goodness, there's something to this. So as I say, I studied it for the next 2 years.
Okay, so
you could say that he sort of set you on your path then to where you are now.
Definitely a catalyst. I think all our children, anyone out there who is a mother, come to teach us lessons, and the greatest lessons I have learnt is from my youngest child.
Amazing how they do that to us, isn't it?
Yeah, incredible, because it's not them being awkward or naughty. We love to label the word naughty. They've come to teach us unconditional love. They've come to teach us patience. They've come to teach us understanding. If you ask a child, how do you think we should deal with this situation, they'll come out with the most incredible answer.
I'm interested. I do too. I'm interested. As a 29-year-old, is he still embracing his indigo?
Not particularly. He is involved in his earthly life, quite rightly, and his partner, his family, his work. And in fact, up until I was in my early 30s, I did exactly the same. I was involved in my earthly life, and I believe that anyone involved in spiritual work needs to gain a balance between their real earthly existence and experience and their spiritual side as well. I think it's so easy to become very absorbed in spiritual work and do it 24/7, and that loses the balance, because we're here for this earthly experience. This is the greatest school of learning.
That's true. Now, you mentioned past lives. It was set in a past life for him.
Yeah.
Okay, could you explain that concept a little more for me, please?
I'm not going to get religious in any way, shape or form, but I will say that the Buddhists believe in reincarnation, and that we are an energy living in a physical body that come back time and time again in a nucleus of a family group where we are all players on the stage, just as Shakespeare said. And in each life we change roles, so that we experience what goes around comes around. And in one life we might be male, and one life we might be female. One life we might be someone's daughter, and the next life we might be someone's father, so that we experience everything in life.
Do we have the same family members then? You said about a family unit.
Quite often there is a soul family group, like the petals on a flower. and there are different relationships. So like the petal on a flower has a vein running down the middle. One side is male and one side is female. That is a flame mate. And then other petals might be soul mates. And the whole lot make up a soul family, so that you are together many, many times.
Claire?
It's just, I'm just thinking, because I've spoken to a lot of people that have, I run a circle development group, and we often talk about being surrounded. I always say that you're surrounded by people, like-minded people. You attract more. I've learned the more that you embrace your spiritual journey, you become more aware of the people that are around you. And I can't say that I can from experience, but I do believe that we do end up close to or spending a lot of time with people that we've spent time with before in a previous life. It's just not an area that I've really delved into, but it's so interesting, isn't it?
I think, sometimes you meet someone and you think, oh my goodness, I feel like I know you. And
oh yeah,
and you can't put your finger on it, and then it just resonates with you that this person is so familiar. And when you do the work that I do, you discover, oh my God, I've known you many, many times, or we were related.
Yeah. Can I just say, as a medium, I have found the more I go to, I feel like I walk in the room and think, God, I just feel like I know you all. Like I see people and I go, God, you look so familiar to me. Do I know? And I'll say to somebody, do I know? Have we met before? And they'll say no. And I think, God, I'm sure we have.
Yeah, it's that strong recognition.
Yeah.
So you talk about for your personal way of healing people, you talk about ancestral healing. So you go back into those past lives and heal those.
Well, I don't do anything weird or scary, because a lot of people are fearful of the work. It's just me working virtually for people anywhere in the world and sending them an email report, because I'm just the facilitator. I kind of link in with their higher self, and I make sure that higher self, which is a long chain, becomes just two energies. So it's getting accurate information from the highest soul level possible, which is a high paradigm right now. And I then work with many, many charts using a dowsing crystal and discover which chart I need to go to and get the information from that chart, and get the information of what energies were linked with past experiences that may be running and affecting their life now, causing them a problem. So with regard to DNA, when you're made with the sperm and the egg, obviously, you inherit, blue eyes or brown hair or whatever DNA from your ancestors. But you also inherit, which has been scientifically proved, stuff that happened to maybe great-great-granny. And that was really highlighted recently on Who Do You Think You Are, when Ruby Wax, who's been suffering with terrible depression, discovered she had no idea that generations back, her great whoever had been put in an institution because nobody realized she had postnatal depression and labeled her crazy, and she went into an asylum. So these things can be triggered in your DNA in your current life, and they need to be cleared in your Akashic records.
Okay, so
that's a whole other area. That's a whole other area, isn't it, Kerry, of interest? The Akashic records.
The Akashic records, indeed.
This is, now correct me if I'm wrong, the Akashic records are all about your is it your story? It's your life plan. Is that right?
The Akashic records hold everything from every chapter that you've ever experienced.
So in this life and other lives.
Everything okay. is in that record. And the way that I work with the higher self has access to pick up the programs running on your internal hard drive and put them into what I call dead files.
Okay.
So somebody might be running a master program. Somebody might have blocks to their full expression of various energies. And there are 7 karmic shadows that can be triggered in the current lifetime. So I've just worked with a lady who has been diagnosed with lung cancer, who has a program in her DNA of illness going back 7 generations on her maternal side. And there's no judgment here, no judgment whatsoever. This is purely for information purposes, to have a conscious understanding. And we ask that the illness program is removed and deleted, and that not only clears it for the client, but clears it for all future generations. It stops there.
So you're not saying that this is going to, she's never going to get ill again. You're just saying that this... so what are you saying with that, actually?
What I'm saying is, it was triggered in the DNA to manifest into reality. The soul creates a plan before it's born to experience certain things. And therefore, if there's 5 children, it doesn't mean all 5 are going to trigger that program of illness. But the person that does then has the option of dealing with the issue and doing everything they can with it to want to live. And if their soul has chosen to exit, then it just makes, when you clear the Akashic records, it just makes it better for when, if they choose to pass, they go to a higher school of learning.
So what? Tell me. Oh, I feel like I'm really thick with this.
I know. I was just thinking that myself, because it's actually quite a huge concept. So I think I actually think what you're doing is, when you get diagnosed with something that's serious and you know it's been through those past generations, would it be an almost like a fatalistic approach of, well, it affected everybody else and killed them off, so it's going to do that to me?
No, we don't know that. We don't know the specifics. All we know that there is, and I'm using that as an example, there is an illness program that has been affecting 7 previous generations. Now, it could be any illness. Years ago, people had TB. People had all different things, and it manifests in different ways. So illness is a dis-ease. It's a imbalance of the well-being of the individual. And if you look up spiritual reasons why people have certain illnesses, it comes from the emotional and the mental state of the person. This particular client is a very, very heavy smoker and knew the risk of smoking, but still chose to smoke. So on a subconscious level, maybe was thinking or feeling life was too much.
So can I ask you then, as the Rootmaster, what are your steps to sort of help this person?
So I do a 90-minute therapy, which is completely written down into email form for, as I say, for anybody living anywhere, explaining the bigger picture of past life energies affecting the current life to the negative, clearing it all, and therefore it has a huge effect on the well-being of the physical, mental and emotional person to the better after the clearing. Now, I'll give you another example that I had a lady connect with me in Dubai, and she said for 17 years she'd had a foul taste in her mouth. She'd gone to doctors, consultants, dentists, tried everything. I was the last resort. She had to have quite a few clearing with me, not just one. Doesn't happen just with one when it's deep.
Yeah.
And there were many, many master programs and blocks going on that needed to be cleared. And her testimonial was that after 17 years, she's now free from that foul taste in her mouth. It had manifested because the body manifests into the physical to bring your attention to it. There's something going on mentally and emotionally before it manifests into the physical.
Actually, when we spoke to the shaman ladies, Crystal Atlantis and Jackie Mannon, this is very resonating in things that they were saying in how they work.
Yes.
That the mental and the emotional was manifests in a physical.
Yeah. I don't know, if you really have gone into detail about the aura, the egg-shaped energy that surrounds each person. It's made up of many, many, many layers. One layer being the emotional layer, and one layer being the mental layer. And it takes a long, long, long time of your internal thoughts and your words that you're using that will create an imbalance there before it manifests into the physical.
So, okay, looking at the aura scenario, if you can see and read aura, then you would be able to highlight a problem that's a possibility for the future?
I don't personally read auras. That's not my expertise. But yes, there are people out there that can read an aura and will say that there is a problem in a particular area and that should get checked out. But as I say, I use charts. I douse with a crystal. I connect with the person's higher self. I don't get too much detail from a client. And I had one client that I worked with that had a frozen shoulder and was referred to me by a physiotherapist. And it turned out, I just was told through the work that I do, that it was sexual abuse. And I very sensitively asked the client whether that was accurate, and actually she had been abused by her mother's boyfriend and her mother didn't believe her, and it had manifested all this years later into a frozen shoulder, and once it was all cleared in the Akashic records, her shoulder was fine.
So what you're saying is things that happen in our past, our traumas and things, manifest them as illness or pain or something somewhere else in our body.
Yes, or maybe somebody's grown up and the mother has said, oh, don't be so ridiculous, you can never study to be a vet, go and get a job as a secretary, marry a rich man and don't worry about a career. And that person has been held back, and then they get migraines because they couldn't truly be who they chose to be. So every physical ailment has a source.
So I would imagine then it doesn't just work in regards to a physical ailment. I would imagine it also manifests in things like addictions and like we talked about ruby wax, depression, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that was inherited. Addictions can be filling the void. So somebody dies, they've left a void, and somebody will comfort eat and put on 5 stone. There's all different ways of filling a void, or
so if somebody does that, if somebody does that, for example, that somebody dies and in their grief, somebody else, mother, daughter, whatever it is, relation, eats to fill the void. How is that linked to the loss? How is it? I mean, I know it's that you do that for, to fill the void. I understand that, but how do you link that to the Akashic records? How do you?
When there's bereavement, there is bereavement, and as you're aware, I'm sure there's 5 steps to go through with a bereavement. But if there is a thread of an addictive streak, and again, one of the 7 karmic shadows is addiction. and that can show up in past lives as alcoholism, nicotine, anything like that. So if that somebody's got an addictive streak, they're going to turn to something, whereas somebody else might not.
And that can be cleared.
Yeah.
So you work very intuitively. You said you work with charts.
I do.
What sort of charts do you work with?
First chart shows me the numbers of all the different charts and points to me what chart I should be working with. One chart will show me an individual's theme and challenge. So I had a father connect with me with a young daughter who was hysterical every time the mother left the house and they needed a babysitter. The child wasn't sleeping at night and was a very nervous child. And that child had chosen in this lifetime for love and affection as her theme and challenge. And I gave the parents some tools to use with that child. And 2 weeks later, the father contacted me to say that she's sleeping so much better and she's really shifted and is really improving. So sometimes you just need to understand what that soul's come to learn and then have the tools to help that soul feel that love and affection.
That's brilliant. I like that.
Yeah.
Other charts will show me programs running, blocks, all different things. So it's extremely detailed, and that's why I call myself the Rootmaster, because it gets to the root of the issue.
Yeah, because that's a lot of it, isn't it? It's getting down to the real root of a problem. It's not as easy as saying I'm just down and...
I've got a migraine, I'll take some painkillers.
Yeah, it's just masking.
Actually, the reason of that migraine is that you haven't really fulfilled who you truly wish to be. So there's all different reasons, but obviously somebody's got to be open to this kind of wanting to know the cause and taking on board what I'm explaining to really get it. Otherwise, they're not going to come to me in the first place.
Well, that's true. I think that's very true. You've got to want to deal with it, to embrace those tools that you're going to give them, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we can do the clearing, but there has to be life tools as well as to how you deal with it now.
Because you have to keep a balance, don't you, once you're dealing with it?
Yeah, I mean, I work with so many people that have had issues in their current life, and then we look at some past lives and it's been repeated there. So it's like, well, now you know about it on a conscious level. This is how you can deal with it now and shift it to a more positive level. And then everything changes. Relationships with people, all different things.
So it's not just being aware of that genetic memory. It's being focused on working and clearing that, because you can use it as an excuse. Well, it's in my genetics, so that's why I'm how I am.
Yeah, well, you can understand that, yes, you inherited that, or maybe it's a karmic shadow of abandonment, and you've been abandoned by your father, you've been brought up by your mother, but the abandonment's gone back 6 generations, but you don't know those ancestors. But each generation, the parent couldn't deal with the responsibility, or something happened, and that child who was your great whoever was brought up by a single parent, or perhaps was born out of wedlock and there was shame attached to it, or maybe the family disowned the mother for getting pregnant by a married man or somebody that didn't marry her, or all different things we inherit in our DNA.
It's amazing when you put it like that.
It is,
I just while I was listening to you speak, I was like, I went off on a little like, oh my God, what is in my occasion?
I know. That's what you start thinking. You do start thinking, oh my God, it may be that. Yeah, maybe I do.
Oh,
is
all
this
these
why
things
people
are going on in my life?
I know. Is this why people self-sabotage a lot? Because
I think that's another master program is self-sabotage, and you're either going to push the win-win button or you're going to push the self-sabotage button. And I think that comes down to actually self-worth. And I also work on beliefs. I check out people's beliefs and clear them in the Akashic record and give people affirmations to the positives, that they're aware in the conscious mind of what they're thinking, because we are creators, and what we think and what we say creates our tomorrow. So yeah, there's it's very involved, the work that I do, and it's like taking off the layer of an onion, taking off the first layer in the first one, and then continuing that, which is why I've created a 90-day core transformation, because it's a 3-month turnaround if you truly want to change things.
So can I just ask you a question, Heather?
Yes.
You're obviously working by your intuition when you're doing this for people.
I'm a facilitator, and I'm linking in with my intuition, but I'm working with that client's high self. And also on the charts, it would tell me if there are entities or earthbound souls attached to that person, or something that might have attached to that person when it was in the womb. There's all these different energies around that need to be cleared and go back to where they belong. So it's really, really in depth.
It sounds.
It really is.
I was going to say, it's absolutely fascinating. I just want to give a quick shout out to a few people who have joined us into the chat room. Guys, if you've got any questions, then please feel free to post into the chat room. Carly and Remy, good evening. Kaz is in there. CJ is in there. CJ says he's absolutely fascinated listening to this. I'm finding it absolutely fascinating myself. I can imagine how involved this must be for you when you're working so intuitively with somebody and linking into that higher self. I mean, we try, those of us who work in the spiritual field are aware of our higher self, but that even knowing about it and knowing, the levels, it's difficult, isn't it, Heather?
Well, I seem to be working with other spiritual coaches, intuitive people. They come to me and they say, Heather, I feel I've got a hook in me. We'll find out in a past life that they may have been, I don't know, a Native American Indian, and they were arrowed in their neck. They've got pain in their neck. They've got a problem in that area. We do some clearing there and some healing, and it goes. Some people might say, Heather, I'm aware that there's a cold spot in my leg. What is it? And we'll look at that. We'll find out what it is. We'll clear it. We'll fill it. And everything changes to the positive. So I do work with a lot of spiritual, intuitive individuals.
So do you tune in, like with your guides? You have guides?
My guides are working with me all the time, and protecting me, because at some point, as I say, I'm clearing earthbound souls who, maybe in a past life they were harmed by the client, or vice versa, or maybe they're addicted to each other. There's all different reasons why they're around, but they need to be cleared because they're causing blocks and interference. And once that's gone, the person feels so much lighter and brighter, and things shift to the positive. So until I research, I can never pre-guess what's going on. But as the work is being done, a picture starts to come about, and then it all clicks into place, and then you can see, oh, this is why this has been happening, and this is why you're feeling this way.
I feel like I've suddenly seen the light.
Light bulb moment. Yeah, light bulb moment.
Oh, I get it now. Yeah. It's so amazing what you do. It's really amazing.
Thank you. There's a free ebook on the website for anybody listening that wants to think, can I read a little bit about this? Yes. So I've put this free ebook there. It's on the website, the Rootmaster.co.uk. and please read it. And if anyone's got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And if anyone wants a clarity conversation with me, it's absolutely free.
Well, I've shared the website into the chat room and onto the event page as well. So, guys, if you want to have a look at that, I had a look at it today. It's fascinating. I found it so interesting reading it because it opened up a lot of questions, understandably. And I just love it. So you do, what other courses you do? You talked about the Core Life Transformation. That's your 90-day one, isn't it?
That is. That I would recommend to someone that's got something that's deep, because I'm very transparent. Yes, I can do Ancestral Healing, but you go off on your bicycle, if you like, with your stabilizers on, you're still not ready to go to will. So I like to encourage people to go the full hog, because I wish to align you into your life path. It's like being in an aeroplane. If you're aligned to your destination, you're going to get there. If you go 3 degrees off course, you're going to land in the sea. So my role is to help my clients fulfill their full potential by aligning them onto their path and guiding them to their destination, whatever their goal is.
I love that.
Yeah.
Allowing them to embrace who they are without the past dragging them down.
Absolutely. And they don't even know why that's happening to them, because obviously some of us meet our grandparents, some of us never meet them, and we don't know what happened to them, what happened in the war, whether they were persecuted, what legal stuff has happened to them, what they felt about money. So many people have got money problems, and then there's stuff going back in their ancestors about legal battles or having poverty or all different reasons.
See, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because there's so many of us are just trundling along through life thinking, oh, it's so hard, and why would we think, well, actually, maybe I can change this. Maybe it's all to do with my Akashic records. Maybe it's all to do with my past or my past family, or what would make us think that if we weren't kind of this, I might say, this way inclined?
I don't think you would, Claire. I think, unless you're a bit interested in what we're chatting about tonight, I think that it would probably sound completely off the wall. So, as I say, the people that do come to me are very open and intuitive themselves, and maybe have already visited people like you for a reading, and then they can be recommended to me or hear about me, and they think, yeah, I do want to get to the root of this, and I don't want this anymore. And the majority of people think that it's quite scary, but once they have it done, they think, wow, this is incredible. So I just think someone's got to have an open mind.
I'm just looking at your website, actually, the Rootmaster.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting where you've put about how things can create obstacles in our lives, blocking our pathway to joy, abundance, authentic power, and unlimited possibilities, which is kind of what prompted me to say that, because I almost want to tell everybody, I'm like, right, don't quick, get in touch with the Rootmaster, sort all your problems out. It's like clearing. You're clearing it and making a clean slate, isn't it? Because if people are having massive problems in their lives, all of a sudden I feel really passionate about it. Can you tell?
I can hear you. It's fabulous, because it's truly amazing. It really is. And that's not my ego talking. It's just the feedback that I get from people saying, I had a really bad relationship with my mum, but since I've had the clearing with you, everything's shifted. I've got my boundaries in place. I've got my self-value, I'm more confident, I love myself a bit more, and everything's changed because I've changed. And I just think, wow, that's what my work's all about.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
better than helping somebody. And if you can do that to help them deal with past issues and allow them to move forward in the way that they're supposed to for their life purpose, that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Hasn't it? Now, there was something that resonated with me on your website earlier myself. You said, there is something called a spiritual response consultant. I love that.
Yes.
Explain that term for me.
Well, I always called myself a spiritual response consultant, but people didn't really understand what that was. So I was chatting with a fabulous colleague one day who's the numerologist within my core transformation program, because at the end of my program, she would draw you a 12-month money map. Show you when to sow your seeds, when to water them, and when to allow them to grow. Anyway, she said to me, "You know what you are?" And I went, "What?" She went, "You're the Rootmaster. You get to the root." And that's when the Rootmaster was born.
Fantastic.
So I moved away from a spiritual response consultant because no one knew what that was.
I love that term, though.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I do. I really love that term. Spiritual response consultant. I think that's fantastic. I really, really do. So, okay, is there any problem or issue that you've come across that you've not been able to clear?
I had a lovely lady who did have ovarian cancer, and I never ever make promises to anybody because, as I say, there's a school of thought that there are a number of exit points that the soul chooses throughout its journey, and you can choose which exit to take. And on a soul level, it was her exit time. But before she left, we did a lot of clearing work together, and I also cleared spaces. I cleared her home, which she said changed the energy of her home. She loved it, and she had a very nice feel about her life as it was ending. And bless her, she passed away some time ago. So, I can never say if somebody's ill, yes, you're going to be cured, because I am not able to wave a magic wand, because it's the soul's choice.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah. I do. I think the silence means that we're kind of digesting what you're saying.
Yes.
It kind of makes me a bit sad. It's like because it's all written, isn't it? That's again going back to the Akashic records, because I'm still learning about these.
Yes.
So going back to those, I suppose it's all written for us. And obviously,
Well,
when I do read,
from my understanding, if you can imagine, you're in between worlds. It's called the Bardo. And you walk into the big ballroom, and in the ballroom are all the hierarchy, archangels and masters and all the very high spiritual energies. And you sit there and you've reflected back on your past experience, and you think, well, my theme and challenge was power and control, and I didn't quite master it. So, okay, I'm going to have to go back again. And you choose the experience that you need to have to master your theme and challenge.
yeah,
And you choose when you're going to arrive, and you choose when you're going to go.
yes, and I say that to people all the time. Although I'd never heard about the Bardo.
Oh, it's BARDOT. I call it the Bardo. It's the in-between space when you're not in a physical body.
I've heard that concept before, but not, like you say, classed as the Bardo. So that is interesting to me as well. Where you basically make those choices for your next incarnation. And
and nobody judges you. No one judges you. You judge your previous experience yourself, like watching a video from a bird's eye view, and you see, what you did achieve, what you didn't achieve, and what you need to go back and do again.
So, like I say to people, from my understanding, that's exactly it. You do choose.
Yeah.
You choose. Yep. Do I need to come back, or can I finish now, or can I carry on, or
Yeah, and you're going to choose
to
your parents, and if you're going to have, I don't know, an interest in arts or music or theatre, you're going to choose parents with those interests that are going to introduce them to you as a child, because you don't remember what it is you've come to learn, although there are some great documentaries out there of young ones that do remember their past lives. And I've just worked with a little boy who has been drawing an aeroplane in flames, and his mother brought him to me because, in fact, in a past life he was the pilot in a World War situation where he had been killed in that plane that went up in flames. So we had to clear all of those energies, and now he's not suffering any more nightmares.
Wow.
That's fantastic. I just think that's fantastic.
That's amazing.
Can you trace that yourself? Can you back that up in fact? Was he coming out with information that you could actually have gone back and looked at historical references?
I don't know whether he told the mother a name or anything, but he kept talking. When he got to 3 and could talk, he kept talking about his other mummy and his other family. So I know that there's a documentary, and I don't know if it's on YouTube, about, I think it was an Indian little boy who did go back and meet his family.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I've seen some documentaries of that before, actually.
So it's quite rare, but fascinating.
It is, because, like you say, the majority of people don't recall any past life experience at all, do they? They have to go and either get regressed or work with someone like yourself to sort of see those issues that possibly has come forward with them from that past life. And it's a whole area of fascination, isn't it, really?
It's incredible, and I'm not here to say that this is right or that is wrong. I say to anybody, whatever you believe, you're right. Find out your own truth. If you read a book or watch a program and it resonates with you, that's great. And if it doesn't, so be it. I'm not here to prove anything. I can only speak as I work, and I'm not here to tell anyone it's this way or that way.
Oh, no, none of us do in any of the realms that we all work in either. Have you come across any of these past life issues in yourself? Was that one of the first things that you started learning about from your own perspective? For you?
It's really interesting. I do know some of my past lives, and it's really, really interesting because I love Tudor houses. I just love them, and I'm interested in like King Henry VIII's historical time and those kind of movies and programs, and I think it was a very happy life. I had a very happy life in that time, and I was also told I was a land girl, so that was, I think, in the Second World War. So I've come back in the 60s, and that's quite quickly, really. But I believe that I'm here to be a light beacon at this time as we move up to the 5th dimension, and the work that I'm doing is very much needed.
Oh, I totally agree with that. We've had so much ascension lately. It's been very hard for some people to process that.
Some people quite close by. It has. There's been a lot of change, a lot of ascension going on everywhere, hasn't there?
And my eldest son got regressed, and it was taped, and his voice changed to an American accent, and he was a cowboy. And in this life, he was always drawn to buying cowboy boots, and that kind of verified why he chose that. And in that lifetime, I was in a long white skirt or dress, and I carried a Bible. And when I was a kid, I was interested in the Bible because I took it literally, and I thought, well, if there was Adam and Eve, how come there's all different cultures and different skin colours and different features if there was only Adam and Eve. So I was always curious. I always wanted to know more. And that's just taken me on my journey of discovery.
Journeys of discovering are absolutely fascinating within yourself, aren't they? Because when you know, no matter, when you get to sort of like this kind of age, you have that balance of being able to look back and go, oh God, yeah, that's a pattern of behaviour that I tend to do an awful lot. When I look at various stages of my life, I think, oh goodness, here we go again. But you can break that. That's what we're saying, isn't it? You can break that pattern of behaviour that's manifesting again and again and again throughout this lifestyle.
If it's a negative pattern of behaviour, and you wish to break that pattern and move on to a more positive way, then definitely it can happen.
Fantastic. Absolutely amazing.
It's fantastic.
So you've got your ancestral healing that you do. You've got your core life transformation that you do. Are there any other ones that you do?
The second option on the website is a bonus course, which is an online course which is really focused on the red base chakra, which brings stability and security into your life, which is where I like to start following the ancestral healing if somebody cannot commit to a core transformation program immediately. So I will be putting more online programs out there, because right now I'm working on a very exciting project with a colleague where we're going to have an online club to help people gain access to their superpower, their intuition. And within that club, there will be lots of different online courses that people can hop on with and learn a lot more about themselves.
Yes, I know that lady. When she'll be back very, very soon on Parasearch Radio as well, which I'm very excited about, actually, Heather, because she's going to be taking online calls.
Fantastic.
Which is something I want you to do.
I would more than love to.
Oh, fantastic. We'll have to arrange that. Yeah, we'll have to definitely arrange that. That's absolutely brilliant. Now, okay, you've written 3 books. First of all, you wrote I Am Indigo, which was about your indigo children and how you dealt with that and all that, wasn't it, to do with your son?
It was aimed at parents and teachers to understand a little bit more about 4 different types of indigo kids and what kind of food would be of benefit, what kind of decor their bedroom would be of benefit, what crystals would be of benefit, because they're very open to crystals. And that was that book. And then I wrote a children's book called The Rainbow Within, which talks about the different colours which are actually the chakras without saying that they're the chakras. So it's very subtle. It's getting the children to realise that everything that we're looking for outside of ourselves is in fact within ourselves. And that comes with a CD. And I've had a lot of feedback from kids that are very hyperactive that find the CD at bedtime really good, and it takes them through the colours of the chakras, and it's very calming. And then the third one is just an ebook on Amazon, which is a kid's fruit book explaining why the body benefits from the nutrients in all of the different fruits, and it gives some really easy lovely recipes that they can do with mum and or dad, and give that delicious, nutritious food to their family.
Fantastic. And you're also a meditation teacher on top of all of this. My God, as if you haven't got enough strings to your bow, you're also a meditation teacher.
Yeah, I've been doing that for 20 years. So I run meditation. I've got a meditation app on the App Store called the Happiness Meditation, and I've got Meditation for Pregnancy and Birth, which is an app and a page on Facebook.
Absolutely awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I know that CJ is actually taking a look at your website now. He's very interested in helping to move some things forward from his ancestral healing. So that's absolutely fantastic. I'd like to give a little shout out to Sharon as well. She joined us in the chat room and said, hello, Heather. So thank you so much for joining us in the chat room tonight. We're in the last few moments of the show, guys. So if there's any quick questions you want, then I suggest you post them now before we go off air. One last thing I'd like to ask you, Heather, is
Yes.
your success rate with this is pretty spot on, isn't it?
I've had so many fabulous testimonies, and as I say, I'm completely transparent. I can never promise the result. All we can do is do the healing work and then come back to me with what's going on. I had one man who didn't believe in what I did, but was referred to me by a friend, and he'd been in a car accident and he needed an operation on his shoulder, and he was really frightened. And 2 weeks after the healing therapy, he rang me up to say, Heather, I've had an x-ray. Guess what? My shoulder's, it's fine. I don't need an operation. And it was like, whoa. You know, well, so you just got to go with it. As I say, I'm totally down to earth. I'm a Capricorn, so what you see is what you get, and I'm very upfront and I'm transparent, and I'm not airy fairy.
No,
I'm real. I'm real. I say it as it is, and that's why the clients that love me as their life coach say that that's what they like about me. I'm for real.
And that is actually the main point in this, isn't it? You have to resonate with somebody if you're going to work with someone on this level, and keeping it real is actually the most important thing, because you don't want to be, excuse the expression, bullshitted.
No, absolutely.
And when you're working spiritually, people really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Genuine people that want, you know, they're there to see you for genuine reasons. Appreciate the fact that you're grounded, you know, and what you see is what you get. I mean, that's the same from where I'm coming from too, and I say that to people all the time. What you see is what you get. Don't shoot the messenger, you know. I'm just telling you what I get, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And because when you're dealing, like as I said, with sexual abuse or something, it's a very delicate, very sensitive subject, and there's guilt and there's unforgiveness and all different energies attached to it, and shame. And I am very emphatic when I'm working with clients, but it's not me getting the information. I'm just the facilitator.
Yeah,
I agree with that too.
That's brilliant. Yeah,
particularly when you work
it's
intuitively.
how you bring it across. Yeah, and it's bringing it across to people, and you sound super well informed and super grounded, and I might be booking myself in.
Pleasure. Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, and on that note, we've actually drawing to the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining us, Heather. It's been an absolute pleasure. We're going to be booking you back on so you can do live calls and hopefully do some little quick sessions live on air. That would be absolutely awesome. Now, next week on Parasearch Radio, again, we have a full week of shows for you. On Monday, we've got the Parasearch UK Encore show. We talked about coincidences. I can never say these two words. Coincidences.
Coinkydinks.
Coinkydinks and synchroninks. Coincidences and synchronicities, which, as always, turns out to be a fascinating show. We always have opposing views on the panel of our roundtable discussions on that, so that's always interesting. On Tuesday, we're launching a brand new competition. If you go over to the Parasearch Radio group page, you'll actually find details of that competition. It's tickets to go to Shepton Mallet Prison investigation. So, guys, check that out. But it actually launches on Tuesday on the Paranormal Concept Show with myself and Paul Rook. On Wednesday, we've got the Supernatural Chat Show. We've got the amazing Lee Roberts in the studio with Mr. Sean Cadman. And Haunted Histories is talking all about Salem. I do believe there is a paranormal convention going on in Salem soon, isn't there, Claire?
There is. But I'm not going.
No, I'm not going either. But I just know that there's a paranormal convention going on there. But
there is a paranormal convention. Yes, it's Sage. No, it's not. Salem Con.
Salem Con, and on Wednesday night, Penny G. Morgan is talking all about Salem, and I'd imagine she's talking about the witch trials that took place there as well. On Thursday evening, on the Spectral Zone with Kaz, she is talking dream visitations. Do spirits actually visit us in our dreams? That's always interesting to find out about. On Friday, we are talking crisis apparition, myself, Kaz, and Mark Manley. We're going to be having a look at crisis apparitions, which there are many different sorts, I found out today. I love a crisis apparition. Well, I love a story about one anyway. And then on Saturday, next Sunday evening, I've got author Ruth Roper-Wilde in the studio with me, talking about various hauntings from around the country that she's actually gone out and investigated, including time ones, like date and time, where these things are supposed to reoccur on certain dates and certain times. That's their latest book. So that's, let's say, next week, absolutely fascinating. Don't forget, Monday nights or Monday evening, I go live on Facebook group page, so join me then. Always rough around about 6 o'clock-ish. So join me then. If you've got any questions, you can pop them into the live chat and I'll answer them live and kicking to you. And on that note, everybody, thank you so much, Heather. Thank you so much, Claire, for joining me tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been good. I've enjoyed
Lovely
tonight.
Lovely to talk to you, Heather. Yeah, it's been really interesting.
Good.
Don't forget, if you want to check Heather's work out, she is the rootmaster.co.uk. The link has been shared into the chat room. Chat room you can still access after the show is finished. So if you are listening on podcast, then you can still find the details of where to find Heather. And on that note, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your interaction in the chat room. And I will see you all very soon. Good night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.